particular ways, not all of them positive, but I think that Bruce is a very strong person, and I think he was able to handle all of that, very well. And I think that Bruce has kept the focus for himself, on the creative end. I mean, what Bruce is generally interested in is, what's my next song going to be about? It's never changed. I've known him since we've worked together since 1975, and some of the records have been bigger than the others, and some of them have been this, and some of them have been that. But Bruce's method is always the same. He's always really interested in what new ideas do I have, what new melodies do I have, what new songs do I have. To me, I didn't see any major effect on his creativity.
Has there been any backlash to him, like taking more of an introspective approach? I mean, I guess that was what sort of characterized Tunnel of Love. But people before that in the Born in the USA period, I guess, had come to associate Bruce with sort of the concept of a spokesman, for his.
All right, that's a good question there. I think that when he functions in a more introspective mode, we will generally naturally sell, some less records. There's one thing that'll happen, and we know that, which is fine. In other words, when we put out Tunnel of Love, we weren't trying to put out we weren't trying to top Born in the USA. It was sort of, we put out a big album that sort of made a big statement. Bruce wanted to come back with something a little smaller and a little more intimate and more personalized, and we knew when we did that, well, you're going to get a little less interest. And I didn't feel it was a backlash. I just thought it was a natural phenomenon. It's what we expected. I think that, if you really look carefully at Born in the USA, I don't think that Bruce wanted to be or attempted to become a spokesperson for anything himself. I think he achieved a certain level of popularity where people wanted him to do that. Reagan tried to get him involved in his campaign, and Mondale tried to get him involved in a Mondale campaign, and everybody wanted Bruce. He had so much power as a cultural figure, everybody wanted to translate that into some sort of political thing. But Bruce had no interest in that, and he basically tried to, as best he could, keep the focus on what he was doing. I mean, he was certainly enjoying the success, but he wasn't interested in being something that he isn't. That was the main thing for him.
You mentioned the word, superstardom a moment ago, but I think more significantly, he's sort of grown into a symbol-like status, not unlike Dylan or something.
Yeah.
So later in the questions here, if I'm not mistaken, there was something about L.A. riots and AIDS and all the various social ills that are sort of plaguing America in 1992. And indeed, when we think about these things in the back of our mind, I'm sure we're kind of asking ourselves, well, what would Bruce think about this? What's Bruce going to do for us? Because he's just sort of grown into that type of...
I understand that. I understand that people are looking to him for some of those things. And I'm sure when he has a chance to talk with the questioner, he is just starting to do a few interviews himself. I'm sure these questions are going to come up, and he's going to give his answers. I'm not prepared in the format of this particular interview to speak for him on any of those particular points. He's a citizen, and he has ideas about these things, for sure. But the idea, as you say, that he has become a symbol, and therefore people expect him to be an activist in some fashion on these things. Well, I think Bruce has been an activist from time to time on some matters of public interest, but I think that's just up to Bruce as a citizen. And obviously, as is historically the case with people who emerge on the cultural horizon, to whom the audience attaches certain symbolic importance, he can't live his life if he starts to feel responsible to living up to a symbol that basically other people created around him. In other words, Bruce doesn't walk around thinking of himself as a symbol.
He also seems to be very careful about making comments on specific issues?
Well, I think that Bruce wants to avoid, Bruce tends to be a very responsible person. And in general, when he does comment on something like the homeless situation in the United States that he dedicated so much energy to on the Born in the USA tour, where he spoke about it each night at the concerts and donated to the local food banks in every city that he played in, for example, and really tried to call attention in the United States in the middle 80s to the continuing poverty in the United States, which was an unpopular theme during the Reagan years. And he worked very consistently and steadily on that, but in order to do that, he really informed himself tremendously well. He met with the community leaders every night at each concert, and before he would say anything, he really wanted to feel like he knew what he was talking about to as great an extent as possible. He's not prone to just, blurting out his opinion of the day without, being really well informed about it. So I think that that's what you'll find with Bruce. If you look back over his history, when he has spoken out, it's been very thoughtful, very intelligent, and when he hasn't, it's not that he doesn't necessarily have an opinion, but he may feel like, well, I'm not sure enough about this or know enough about this for this to be worthy of me to put into, a newspaper. Just because I'm a big star doesn't mean that I'd like to see every little thought that I have written down and taken seriously by the large number of fans he has out there. I think he tends to be very careful about that.
He could very easily become sort of a messianic agitator, I guess, if he wanted to.
Well, he has no interest in that. We're aware of that, and that's just something he's not going to let happen, and he's never let it happen.
Has he ever commented to you on people who've sort of fallen into that mode? Has he ever talked about that?
Well, we've talked about many things. The thing I need to avoid in this situation, Steve, is I can give you my perspective on things. I don't really like to pass on, in diluted form, Bruce's opinions. When the question has a chance to interview Bruce, which I hope will happen, he can ask him directly. But I'm sort of not comfortable, just sort of passing on Bruce's, the random comments that might take place in our discussions about a topic like this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Before I move on to the next section here, there was a little trivial point that
what is it?
Clarification on. Did Chrysler really offer Bruce $12 million?
That's a good point, and I'm not quite sure the total origin of that, but the fact is that it would be fair to say is that high officials of the Chrysler company had made very serious overtures, very unusual. I'm not going to get into the business details, but expressed a deep and extraordinary interest in some sort of association with Bruce. That's fair to say. The numbers and the rest of it, I don't even remember at this point, and I don't comment on Bruce's business per se.
Okay. Getting back to the two new albums, you said that Lucky Town sort of came in a burst, but could you fill us in a little bit more on Human Touch and was it difficult to put that together?
Yeah, it was. It was good, solid, steady, hard work. It sort of got kicked off in an unusual way. Roy Bittan had some music that Bruce had heard, and Bruce was having a little trouble getting started with his own songs. And he got a hold of Roy, and he got a hold of this particular music, and he wrote the words to Roll of the Dice to the track that Roy had created, a demo track, and that was the beginning of the album. That's where we started. So, we just started working through, suddenly, Bruce just started coming up with stuff, and I guess one of the early turning points is when he came up with Human Touch. And we knew that was really something, and that was also something that really sort of seemed to get across philosophically the overall idea that Bruce was still really interested in, which is basically, human connections between people, and trying to in an incredibly chaotic, noisy, overstimulated, environment, trying to live your life in a way where you still are able to focus and connect at the most basic level that people